Hey guys, Home DIY Dan here. So 1 year ago, I redid my garage floor with the black epoxy. 500,000 of you have watched that video and I greatly appreciate it. And I went through the comments recently and I figured, let's go back and let's revisit how it turned out and how it's holding up after 1 year. So we're gonna go through, I took all the questions that were in the comments and I'm going to answer some of those. And then we're going to take a look at how it looks now and see, okay, well, I should have done this better, or this area turned out great. So to start off with, we're going to do a quick review of what I did and maybe some areas that I would have changed. So when I started off, I filled in all the cracks and little gaps with the Rust-Oleum concrete patch. That worked out really well. I can't even tell in the garage where I filled any holes and cracks. Like, it worked out perfectly. After that, I acid washed the floor like 4 times. Looking back on it, I would have rather just rented a grinder and done it that way, and then done one acid wash. But at the time I was a little pressed for cash, so I was trying to save money, and the acid wash worked well, doing it multiple times, but I would have done a grinder instead. Then I set up all the buckets when the kit arrived and got everything ready to be measured, because you have a very limited time to work with the epoxy once it is mixed. And the way I set up the buckets and poured out everything, I had the ratios already pre-marked on the pitchers. That worked out fantastic, made it really easy. But I also got really impatient and decided to just mix it all together and then pour it all out at once. I wish I would have just gone with the smaller areas like I was planning on, but hindsight's 20/20. It still looks great. Then I would have rather had a flat blade squeegee as opposed to the notch squeegee I had. It would have spread a lot easier and just would have made it, a lot easier. I also wish I would have bought just a little bit more of the epoxy, because at the end there I was worried if I would have enough. So after everything was mixed, I poured it out, spread it out with the squeegee, and then rolled it with the roller. That all worked well except for the squeegee. Then I went through and I found like a 1-gallon jug at Walmart, and I just drilled a bunch of, I think, 3/8 or 1/2 inch holes in the bottom. I filled that jug up with the flakes, and then I just walked around shaking it out. It was a really nice pattern distribution, really even. I didn't have any spots where they all clumped up. It just came down like snowflakes. It worked out really well. And then I think I waited 9 hours from once I finished applying the epoxy to putting the clear coat on. I would have waited another hour or two because some of the areas were dry, some of the areas were still tacky. And when I checked near the door, because that was the first place I did, that area was dry. And a few of the other areas I checked were dry. But as I got further into the far corner of the garage, those areas were tacky still. So when I applied the clear coat, it didn't go on quite as well, and it gave a weird look like this. So I would have waited a little bit longer. I also would have used more clear coat. I would have gone a lot heavier on it because I still had almost between 1/2 and 3/4 of the gallon of clear coat left. I mean, there was nothing else I was going to do with it. I should have just drenched it. That might have covered up some of the problem areas had I gone heavier on the clear coat, but it was hard to tell because it was at night when I was doing it, and I think I woke up like at 3 a.m. to do it because I had to do it before I went to work. Yeah, I would have just gone a lot heavier on that portion. Other than that, those are the big things that I would have done differently. So let's get into some questions that you guys had in the comments. Any tips or warnings I should look out for when having a company do this for me? Well, tips, I would find out what product they're using, then research that product, make sure it's got good reviews, and then I would ask them what their process is. I would also get at least 3 bids to see, the prices, and the difference in the materials that they're using. Other than that, and then if they've got a good reputation online, good reviews, stuff like that, and if they've got a history of being around a while. If it's just Joe's pop-up garage floor epoxy company, probably wouldn't go with it. But yeah. Next question is, what about if the floor is painted already? Can you still put epoxy to the floor? Yes, but you're going to have to diamond grind it. Just like with anything else, that diamond grinding and acid washing will remove that paint, and you'll have a nice clean concrete surface to work from to start off with. Next question is, I have a brand new constructed home. Do I still need to prep the concrete with a grinder? No. But you still need to acid wash it because of the chemicals from the concrete curing process that leach through the top could interfere with the adhesion from the epoxy. So I would acid wash it to give it a nice, clean, fresh concrete surface. If you got small cracks on the concrete, what would fill with or how would you fix it? Well, as long as they're not giant gaps in the concrete, you could use the Rust-Oleum concrete patch kit. It should be able to take care of most of the little holes and stuff. If you've got some big holes, then you're going to have to get like a concrete mix, patching thing. Wouldn't it be easier to diamond grind the floor as opposed to acid cleaning it? Yes, but you still have to acid wash it after. Do you have to neutralize the acid? Yes, but it will neutralize during the rinsing process when you're rinsing it off. And then just make sure that any plant life, grass, or anything that's downstream of where you're rinsing it into, that you spray that down real well before and after. How can you walk on the epoxy while applying it? I actually just float when I walk. I just kind of I've got hovercraft shoes. They're like little shoe adapters that you put on. It's a hard plastic sole, and then Velcro that goes around your shoe, and it's got like golf spikes on the bottom, so that it's just a little point going into the epoxy, and since the epoxy is self-leveling, it covers that after you move your foot. Next question is, did the top coat completely cover the paint chips so the floor is completely flat? Yes. The paint chips landed. The paint chips landed, and if there were any sticking up, you can just knock them down, or as you're rolling on the clear coat, it'll knock those down. How did you make your flake shaker? And covered that already with just a bucket, like a gallon water jug, whatever, and drilled holes in the bottom. Dan, if you got oil on the floor, how would you clean it up? Well, I'd wipe it up, and then I'd use a mixture of dish soap and water. Should take it up real quick and not leave any residue or anything. How much flake did you use to cover the floor? Well, the kit I bought from Armor Garage came with 8 pounds of flakes. I think I used like 3 to get this kind of coverage. Now you could go a lot harder with it and pretty much almost do like a full kind of coverage where you don't really see the epoxy that you put down. I tried to get a good blend of epoxy and chips and try and make it as even as possible. If we add clear coat, hoping that it would be glossy, will it make us lose the grip? Yes, the clear coat will make it slipperier, but there is an additive you can add to the clear coat that gives it grip. It will dull the surface a little bit. You're not going to get that perfectly high gloss mirror-like finish like mine is if you add that anti-slip powder, but it will minimize the slippage. Now, I was more concerned about the look of the garage. We've had 2 weeks of rain and I've been walking in and out of the garage and I really haven't had any issues. The kids have slipped once, but it's not too bad. So it just depends what's more important to you. You know, that's all personal preference. Next question is, how is it with a car on top of the floor? Is any of the epoxy lifting? No. So about half the time I keep the cars in the garage, the other half they're on the driveway because I'm using the garage for projects or whatnot. If you look, you don't see any hot tire pickup. There's no tire marks. There's nothing. It's held up very well. How do you find screws you drop on the floor? I don't. I might find them a day or two later, or if the kids are in the garage and I drop a screw, I tell them to look for it. Did anyone else notice the non-matching socks? Should I judge your fashion choice while you're doing projects at home? Do you always dress your Sunday best? Nah, I just throw on socks. I'm going to be rolling around in epoxy and getting all dirty. I don't really care what I'm wearing. I'm going to probably throw out some of it because it's covered in epoxy. And light beer? Yeah, I can drink Miller Lite all day long. It's good for when you're working on something outside, you know, you don't want to be weighed down by a heavy IPA. So yeah, Miller Lite is my beer of choice for doing projects. Well, guys, it's been great over the last year interacting with all of you on the comments and on various social media platforms. And I appreciate all of you that watch these videos at like 3 a.m. and you're like, I don't even have a garage. Why am I watching this? It's fun to read those. But if you guys have any other questions about the floor or any of the other projects that I've done, feel free to hit me up on the comments, hit me up on Instagram, Gab, Facebook, wherever. I'm here to help you guys out. And I also appreciate the comments that help me learn as well. With that being said, I'm Home DIY Dan. It's been 1 year with this floor. I'm loving it. And if you guys want, head to armorgarage.com, and if you want to get the epoxy flooring that I had, they're doing a Home DIY Dan special. I think it's either $20 off or 5% off, I forget, if you use the promo code Home DIY Dan. So I'll put a link in the description, and I'll put a link in the description for those shoes as well. But have a good one, guys.